Okay, today my guest is Professor Eric Tsang. I'll keep my introduction short to maximize our time with him. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Eric as a person. Professor Tsang is a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally is a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of his accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Tsang is an AIB fellow. He has served on the editorial boards of most major IB journals, such as JIBS, Journal of International Management, Journal of World Business, and Management International Review, in addition to other management journals. He has served as a consulting editor or senior editor at Management and Organization Review and Asia Pacific Journal of Management. His research interests include FDI, strategic alliances, organizational learning, entrepreneurship, philosophical analysis of methodological issues, and his paper with Andrew Inkman, the Social Capital, Networks and Knowledge Transfer, won the 2015 AMR Decade Award. He also won the 2014 Best Paper Award from the Journal of Strategic Information Systems, and he is the author of The Philosophy of Management Research. Thank you, Eric, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
First question, always. What did you want to become when you were a child?
I think I have a few in my mind. In fact, when I applied for, I come from a very modest family background, so I was the first to go to college. I have an elder brother and elder sister, and so in high school, in fact, I studied science subjects. So when I set for the what I call the A-level exam, the advanced level exam, for or you call the university entrance exam, the subjects that I took were English, physics, chemistry, pure mathematics, and applied mathematics. But when I applied for US Hong Kong, so I applied for the social science faculty. While I mean, unlike my classmates who mostly applied for engineering, the engineering faculty. So because at that time, one of my dream careers was to become a clinical psychologist. So psychology is in the social science faculty. So I applied for the social science faculty, and so I was accepted into US Hong Kong. And in fact, before that, another career in my mind was to be an architect. Okay, because I think architecture is a beautiful combination of art and science. And I mean, I like visual art very much. I was pretty good at, art subject in secondary school, and so I think architecture seems to be a good fit for my skill set. But so since I joined US Hong Kong on this Faculty of Social Science, so I had to focus on a career art and architecture. And but once I joined, US Hong Kong, in the first year, I think my interest was shifted a little bit to economics. Yeah. So at the end, after I got my MBA from the Chinese US Hong Kong, then I joined HSBC as a corporate banker. Yeah, so it's a very drastic kind of change.
Yeah. So Eric, can you remember the first time you realized there was something called international? Can you tell the difference between the first moment of awareness between domestic versus international as a child?
It's not, in fact, it's not so much because as I told you, I come from a very modest background, and at that time, I think the case is, although I always studied business, a couple of business subjects in US Hong Kong, but I think my mostly focus on economics and statistics. So my exposure to the business discipline was not very strong. So but as you know, Hong Kong is an international city.
Mm-hmm.
So we met foreigners. So when I worked in HSBC, so definitely they're manager from the UK, and I encounter clients, from
Okay.
So that's my exposure to IB. You may say not much.
About choosing scholarship, IB scholarship, being a professor, how did you decide? And your research area specifically for international business, what made you choose the field?
Okay, it's a very long story. Okay, the story is after I joined HSBC. In fact, at the beginning of my class, okay, for undergrad or PhD, I usually told students that there was nothing wrong with HSBC. It was a caring employer. It gave a lot of opportunities to young executives, but there was something wrong with myself. I got a gut feeling that it's not the kind of career that I would like to have for the rest of my life. And so the story is that I was a member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers in the UK. So as a member, I received a magazine from the Institute every month. It's a monthly magazine. So they send it to my office in the bank. So one day I received the magazine, and then I flipped through the pages, and then I saw one full page job advertisement of Nanyang Theological University. At that time, I think there were only two universities in Singapore. One is NUS, National University of Singapore, the other Nanyang. And so the ad, basically I read through the ad, and then it didn't require PhD, okay? But they require minimum is a master's level qualification. And then I got it because I got MBA from the Chinese University Hong Kong. And preferably they want people to have passed the banking diploma exam, the Chartered Institute of Bankers, which I passed. So it seems that I was qualified. So I submitted my application, and then I was hired. So this is how I left the bank and went to Singapore to teach. I think the case is because they had a undergrad major in banking. I think they still have, I'm not so sure. So they needed people who have practical banking experience to teach the subject. It's not just from theory, but some of the subjects are really very practical. Yeah. So I was qualified, and so I went to Singapore. And so of course you cannot compare the financial prospect of being a banker versus being a faculty member. I mean, there's no comparison. But money is not everything, okay, on earth. So I went there, and then I realized that it was the kind of career that I would like to have for the rest of my life.
Interesting.
In order to stay in the career, so I needed to get a PhD. So I went to Cambridge, and John Chow was my supervisor. And you know, John is also an AIB fellow that you interviewed previously. Yeah. So at that time, I think his interest is on Chinese management, organizational learning, that's all. International joint ventures. So basically, so I try to find something within his domain of research interest. And so my dissertation was about Singapore companies FDI in China, mostly joint ventures. So it's about joint ventures set up by Singapore companies with local Chinese companies. And so my main research question is how and what did these Singapore companies learn from their joint venturing experience in China? So that is squarely IB topic. That's how it started my academic career.
Something that is not on your CV that people might find interesting, hobbies, interests.
Okay, so when I was young, I played table tennis, tennis, squash, badminton. So games with a toe or racket. and you may be surprised to hear that when I was young in high school or secondary school, I engaged in sprint running. Okay, so 100 meters, 200 meters. Yeah, I think I think I was the fastest runner in my class. Okay, starting from primary school to high school. Okay, so you talk about a class of about 40 kids. Okay, maybe 20 were boys. So I was the fastest runner, as far as I can recall. So it seems that I have a bit of that sort of talent. So
Interesting.
also, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
for the sake of time,
Okay, there's sprint competition, 100 meters, 200 meters, 4x100 meters relay, you know. So I enjoy watching that sort of competition very much in the Olympics. And so that's more on the sports side. And I learned watercolor painting. Yeah. So in fact, in my house, there were 2 watercolor paintings done by me.
Wow, interesting.
In my house. Yeah. So as I told you, I like visual art very much. So I learned watercolor painting. But unfortunately, after my kids were born, then I started that hobby. I think I should pick it up. Yeah, now. Yeah, I really enjoy watercolor painting, and also going to art gallery and so on. Yeah, so this and okay, and another is travel. I love traveling. So I think COVID-19 a big punishment for me because I have to stop traveling around the world for almost.
Well, the next conference is going to be in person, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, I hate online conferences. I go to the conference physically and meet the person face to face, that's all interaction, having a cup of coffee, that's all impressions that you told.
Actually, your advisor said exactly the same sentence, if I remember correctly. I think he said exactly the same sentence about human touch that he's missing. Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that you can compensate through that's all online seminars, online conference. You don't have that,
Sure.
The experience, sit down with another scholar, at Starbucks, having a cup of coffee, chit chat, making jokes, that sort of thing, And also, I told my dean, so I hate teaching online. I really hate teaching online because, say, if in the classroom, say I make a joke, then I could look at students' reaction to my joke. Okay, if they didn't laugh, then okay, next time I have to change it to another joke. But for online teaching, you don't have that sort of
True.
I mean, kind of check, students' reaction.
True. So for the sake of time, I'll switch to research. You mentioned about your research in general terms, but about omitted variables, omitted areas, contexts in IB research, looking back, what are some of the areas that are neglected that we need to cover more of in IB research?
I think the COVID-19 teachers, IB researchers, basically is a big lesson. So we talk about environmental shocks. So the pandemic itself is a shock because companies have to immediately adjust their mode of operation. So a lot of them have to change to online meetings, and so their employee can't come to the office. And so they, for retail industry, they may have to close their store, restaurants, or whatever. And so for the airlines, they have to change their flight schedules. And so this is a very important environmental shock that companies have to deal with, whether they are domestic companies or MNCs. And that, I think that's also related to organizational learning. So companies have to learn how to deal with this sort of very sudden environmental shock. And I think it's interesting to see how companies adjust and learn, and also to see how they store the knowledge of learning in their company. So in case this pandemic is over, maybe after a few years, there's another kind of a pandemic or whatever, then there's another shock. And it's interesting to see how far companies can learn from the current shock to deal better with a future shock.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, if you talk about IB, I think you have read, or most of have read that there's a shock in terms of global value chain. You see, so because quite a lot of companies, they focus their production activities, say in China, and the pandemic started in China. So that seriously affected their production activities, because most of the activities are in China. Okay, so because of that, I read the news, I keep track of the news. It seems that some company like Samsung, they have learned that maybe they have to diversify more in terms of their production activities.
Let's tie this to the next 5 to 10 years of the field. What do you see as the big research questions, a good dissertation topic for junior faculty? What's the question that they should be interested in, that they should be looking into?
Well, I can talk from my basic research area, like organizational learning. So I think the adjustment of global value chain, published a review paper in JIPS recently about global value chain with 2 scholars. So basically, I think this will become an important topic. And as time passes, you'll see more MNCs adjusting their global value chains.
Okay.
I think they try to build in some buffer somewhere. So in case this sort of environmental shock happens, then I think it's better, then they will be in a better position to deal with it. Yeah, so I believe they will try not only to diversify, but to be in some sort of buffer in the global value chain.
Okay.
Stop the shock. And this is talking about adjustment, learning, knowledge sharing. So it itself is a big topic. Yeah, research on. So I think this should be a fruitful kind of research area that you have practical implications for MNCs. Yeah. In fact, related to that is if you keep track of the international politics, now it seems that China has some sort of a conflict with certain Western countries, including US. And that, okay, I think that is not as dramatic as the pandemic, but MNCs will feel the need to deal or to hedge this sort of political risk. Okay, so it's not just talking about production, but also sales. Okay, so if a company sells a very substantial percentage of its products in China, and then the company, the MNC's home country happens to have some sort of political conflict with China, then the MNC will be in serious trouble. Yeah, in terms of sales. So I think MCs, I believe nowadays the TMT will or is looking into this sort of political risk, how to hedge it. Yeah. Again, this is a big topic that IB researchers may be interested, yeah, to look into it and see what suggestions that they can give to MMCs and yeah, hedging the political risk.
What do you see as a fruitful area to when we consider the Chinese investments in Africa, the Belt and Road initiatives, and for state-owned enterprises or for private enterprises, how does it relate to the knowledge literature, international knowledge transfer literature for the Chinese activities in Africa, in your opinion?
Well, I think that's an interesting topic. I have read something about that. So I think Chinese companies have been very successful in transferring their technology to less developed countries like those in Africa or small countries along the One Belt, One Road initiative. And I think the Chinese are successful in terms of producing a reasonably good quality kind of project, like building a road or a dam, and with very low cost, which Western companies cannot compete because I think their cost is much higher, although the quality may be a little bit better. In that sense, I think Chinese companies are very successful. And as far as I know, most of these Chinese companies are in fact state-owned enterprises. Very few of them are private companies. So they have to support from the Chinese government. Cost-wise, I mean that they may be some sort of subsidy from Chinese government. I really don't know the details. But in any case, I think they have done a good job in that aspect, producing a reasonably good quality kind of a product with a pretty low cost. And I believe something that Western companies may be able to learn from the Chinese. They are not, I don't think they are using the most advanced technologies, but they are using a proven technology, okay, in China. I think China, the advantage is because it's a huge country, so they can test a technology inside China before they use it overseas, and then they improve on the technology, yeah, to make it more reliable, to lower the cost, and then they export the technology to these less developed countries. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Now, about advice portion, what was the best advice you received from your advisor when you were going through the PhD program and starting your own career?
So John was a great mentor. I think what I learned from him is I always find he had a passion in his research. Okay, I think even now he has retired from University of Birmingham, and he published a book recently, so I purchased a copy. So basically, what I learned from him is the passion, this career to do research, and of course he's a great writer. You know, he can write very fast, which is something that I cannot I cannot do. And his argument, he argues very well. I think he got a training in sociology for undergrad in Cambridge. That's what I recall. So I think he looked at things from a more macro, sociological kind of perspective, not so micro. Yeah, and he pushed forward very convincing argument. Yeah, of course he writes excellent English as a native speaker. But but basically, I learned from me is the passion for doing research.
When you look at the current PhD students or junior faculty, what are some of the common mistakes that you see young scholars, young colleagues make? What are some of the things that you observe in their behavior that you think you should give advice about not to do? What not to do?
Okay, good question. Because I was a PhD, what we call it here, called it PhD coordinator, okay, of department. So I stepped out a couple of years ago, but I'm still supervising doctoral students. Again, I think every doctoral supervisor should have this sort of experience. So a student comes to see you, and then the student, after some sort of chit-chat, and say, John has a paper accepted a certain journal. I still haven't got any our paper acceptance. You see, that's sort of a comparison among doctoral students in the same cohort. I think this is natural. But usually, okay, what I can tell them is, or try to comfort them is, you look at your age, okay? If you join a career, after you have got your PhD, you have at least 2 to 3 decades down the line. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. So you have to look at the long term, okay? And also don't compare yourself with other classmates. You just work on your own topic with passion. Of course, you have to work hard. Yeah, and I think personally, I have some sort of reservation about the tenure system in North America. Okay, it is a sprint. So you require assistant professor to publish, okay, in my school with 4 to 5 on the what we call the UTD 24 within about 6 years. I think for most research schools in North America, I think they require somewhat similar, 4 to 5 at least. That's very difficult. Yeah, nowadays to publish 4 to 5 in those top journals within about 6 years. Yeah.
True.
So, and also, I would say that may not be very productive. Yeah. So I think there's something that we have to fix for SIM, but of course I'm not in position to fix this sort of problem. But I encourage junior faculty members to look further ahead. So if they fail to get tenure in one school, then they can go to another school and have another 6 years. So they should not follow the fashion. Because sometimes students say, okay, this seems to be a hot topic nowadays. So I go into it. I'll first ask, do you like the topic? Do you have a passion for topic? Are you interested in it? If the answer is no, don't go into it. You do something that you are genuinely interested in. Yeah. And then you ask yourself, do I have the ability to do it? So you are talking about quality research. Can I write good English? Can I write good stories? If you talk about that's a quantitative, so am I good at number crunching, statistical modeling? So you ask yourself. So first, whether you have a passion. Second, whether you have the ability. If you have both, then you go for it. And don't compare yourself with others. And then you look long term, not just 6 years. I mean, failing to get tenure is not the end of the world. You can find a job in a school. Yeah. And also maybe they should not just focus on North American universities. I think Europe universities are more liberal in terms of publication outlet. Yeah. In that sense, they may not be as demanding as most North American research universities. Then you have more room, yeah, to explore your research interests, not just focusing on publishing the enough number of papers to get tenure. Yeah.
Eric, I learned a lot from this interview, but is there a question that I should have asked you but haven't?
What question?
Is there a question I should have asked you but I haven't? Have I left out anything that you want to contribute?
Okay. If you're talking about advice giving to junior faculty members or doctoral students, I usually ask them to read some philosophy if time. Yeah, because my another major stream of research is philosophy, the application of philosophy to tackle some methodological issues. So my first book in 1999, ML, replication theory development. And so as you mentioned, I published a book 2017, the philosophy of management research. And I'm writing a book, and the book, my second book, explaining management phenomenon, a philosophical treatise. Okay, so I'm still working here. I'm behind schedule. So I think my advice is, if they read philosophy, I think they'll be more rigorous in terms of the argument. Definitely they will improve the rigor of the argument. And it will be more logical. And not only that, I think some sort of knowledge of, say, philosophy of science will help to spot some sort of what abnormal kind of phenomenon in our field. Like, so in fact, I have a paper forthcoming in Journal Management Inquiry. And so I think quite a number of us have read David's paper. That's interesting. So, so quite a lot of scholars in our field stress that you produce interesting arguments. So if you're finding interesting, then it will be better than they are not interesting or boring. So it seems that there's an interesting kind of movement or interestingness movement in our field. And so my paper argues that whether an argument or a theory or finding interesting has no value in science, which makes sense. I just can't figure out why interestingness is something so important. In science, there's no value, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we talk about COVID-19. Okay, so suppose someone had found a drug to cure COVID-19 100%. No one will care whether the drug is based on interesting theory, right? Or whether the vaccine is based on interesting theory. No one cares about that. What they care is how far the vaccine is effective, how far the drug is effective. Period. And as management scholar, I don't know why we care so much about interestingness.
True.
So basically, I think this is something very simple. If someone has some knowledge of philosophy of science, because interestingness is not a virtue of a scientific theory. Yeah, I mean, David's paper is talking about counterintuitive. Where something is counterintuitive has no value. But someone may call, okay, you know, Einstein's theory. It's counterintuitive, right? Because we used to think that time is absolute, but his theory shows that time is relative, or space is relative. But Einstein is great not because his theory is counterintuitive, because his theory is true. Do you see it? Yeah. So I think sometimes people mix up the two. Einstein is a great scientist not because his theory is counterintuitive. Of course, his theory is counterintuitive, but because his theory is true, at least up to this moment, is true. It's better than Newton's theory. So that's why I think as management scholars, researchers, I think we can learn a lot from reading philosophy. And I can give, a more recent or more practical example is the paper I published a short post when ago in AMR 2016. So we joined the debate of the ontological nature of entrepreneurial opportunities. Okay, because there are two camps. At that time, there were two camps. So one camp says that entrepreneurial opportunities exist objectively, waiting to be discovered. Okay, the other camp says that opportunities don't exist objectively. They are created by entrepreneurs. Okay, however, both camps are wrong. And then we propose the third perspective, saying that entrepreneurial opportunities exist objectively, but they are not in the actualized form. You see? So entrepreneurs have to actualize, okay, they put the opportunity and they to actualize it. So they don't exist in the actualized form. So you are not talking about discovering apple. You talk about a seed which has a potential to grow into apple. I don't want to go to detail, otherwise it may take another hour. So those interested, please read my article, my cover article in AMR 2016 about the nature of entrepreneurial opportunities. So I think this topic is squarely in philosophy. It's about ontology, the nature of existence. So that's how philosophy can contribute to management research.
True. Interesting point. Eric, for the sake of time, I need to end this one, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your thoughts and for the advice you've given. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will agree with me. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for inviting me.